My name is Grant Waldy. I recently passed the California PE survey exam, and the whole point of this video is to show you how I studied for it and some tips and tricks. I have 8 PEs. The ninth PE was in California, which I just got. I have 6 Canadian PNGs. I have my project management certificate. You can follow me on LinkedIn. That's my personal website, grantwaldy.com, which is basically just my resume. And my current job is I'm the transportation business group leader here at GHD. So I'm in charge of highways and roads and bridges and ports and maritime and rail and municipal. A lot of things in my kind of portfolio here. Used to be a bridge inspector. That's a picture of me on the Mackinac Bridge. So I'm a structural engineer, I'm a bridge engineer, and now I'm more in the business development, executive management type role here at GHD. But I still like going to bridges. I still like actually getting out there. We recently won a bunch of work in California, and I thought, you know what? I think now it's time. Now it's time for me to get my California PE. So the first tip number 1, you should get the Casio FX 115. This calculator right here. It's an approved calculator that you're allowed to get on the test. That's the old version that I have. They can do definite integrals. You can solve formulas on it. Great calculator. That, I believe, is what the new one looks like. Why is this calculator so important for the survey exam? Okay, well, this is a zoom in. It's that button right there. It's this button right here. Why this is important is because you're going to have a bunch of questions on the survey exam that will say, add these angles up. They're not going to say add up 10 degrees, 10 degrees, and 10 degrees for 30 degrees. They're going to say 15 degrees, 25 minutes, 13 seconds. Add that to 16 degrees, 14 minutes, 23 seconds. And they're going to do this, a whole bunch of them. And all you have to do, you don't have to do second function or anything. You just keep hitting this button right here. Boom, boom, boom. So it looks like you're typing in degree, 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 but when you hit equals, it sums them all up into degrees, minutes, and seconds. And when you want to flip in between degrees, minutes, and seconds and decimal, you just press this button again. That is going to save you minutes. So super important that you get the Casio FX 115. It's going to save you minutes on the test for sure. This button here, Shift Setup, when you go into that, you've got those top options, math and line. Well, if you're in line, option 2, and you go 5 divided by 6, you get 0.8333. But if you go Shift Setup, math, and you go 5 divided by 6, you get it in terms of fractions. And that is super useful because then what you can do is you can press this S to D button down here, S to D, and then boop, goes back and forth between 5, 6, and 0.8333. So sometimes on the multiple choice, the answer will be in terms of fractions, but you'll get an answer in terms of decimal, and it'll allow you to jump back and forth. So that is a super useful time-saving thing. Definitely get the Casio FX 115. Tip number 2, do not even sign up for the exam until you've gone through every single page of this book right here. So it is the California Civil Survey Reference Manual. It's not too thick, and there's lots of pictures in it. There's lots of examples in it. Really good book. Go through every single page of this book. This is your how-to book. Another tip 3A, when you're going through this book, make cheat sheets. You're not allowed to bring cheat sheets into the exam, but maybe on page 7, there's the cosine law. And then on page 8, there's the sine law. And then on page 9, there's things about tangent. Well, you don't want to have to be flipping back and forth, back and forth. You want it all on one convenient cheat sheet. So I made cheat sheets. And then what I did is I just put them on a blank page in the book because you can bring in blank pages. So you can bring in a book that has blank pages and then write on them. You can't bring in cheat sheets. So I wrote all my cheat sheets into the book. I'm not going to go through all of this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit pause and look at the various different formulas that I have here. So this is unit conversion, This one here, a lot to do with trigonometry and triangles. Here we have geodetic north and magnetic north and true north and root mean square and statistics at the bottom, more things about error analysis. A Gunter chain when you're taping or leveling or doing elevation calculations, topo survey, aerial mapping, photogrammetry, traverses, areas of traverses, super important at the bottom there, knowing how to calculate the area of a traverse, horizontal curves, vertical curves. Sometimes the cheat sheet says just go to this page because it's done better in the textbook than me writing it out. Land descriptions, various different things. So go through all that, go through the book, and then write them actually into the book. So this becomes like the absolute only reference you really need when you're doing the exam. Tip number 4, the tabs. See how my tab, it just says trig, or it just says line equation, or it just says area formulas. You can't have big tabs that have formulas on them. They literally ripped some of my tabs out of the book. They just have to be for bookmark purposes only. They can't have actual notes on them other than just saying horizontal curve. You can't have horizontal curve and then an actual example of a horizontal curve. You have to write that into the book. Tip number 5, buy this book, the Surveying Dictionary. Pretty thin book, but what you'll find is there'll be a number of questions on the test where you'll look at it and you'll say, I don't know what Chebyshev's map projection is. And then you look it up and you go, oh, that's the general map projection that was created by Chebyshev in 1856. And the multiple choice might say 1956 and 2002, and you won't know until you look it up in this book. So you're going to get a number of questions, just bang, 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 if you have this dictionary. $40, I think it's worth it for probably the 5 questions that it's going to save you on when you have that book during the test. Tip number 6. All right. You probably already have this book because if you're doing the California PE exam, you probably already have PEs in other places. You probably already have this book, this Lindenberg book. Pages 77.1 to 82.8. That's where you're going to find all of your questions that are applicable to the exam. So let's go to 77.1. You've got plane surveying, going through this. There's going to be things about horizontal and vertical curves, which is incredibly important. Knowing about sag curves and crest curves, super important. Plane surveying, horizontal, compound, vertical, spiral curves, construction earthwork, construction staking, layout, building codes, material testing, job site safety. If you have all those bullet points and you've learned some questions on all those things, you're going to be in really good shape. I have the version on the right there, which is the 11th version, $14 right now. The new version, which I think is the 17th version, $110. I don't know, not so sure if you need the new version. I did quite fine with that older version. All right, tip number 7. Once you've gone through all these books, now it's time to test yourself. So it's this book here, California Civil Surveying Solved Problems, very thin, but this is a very good example of what the types of questions are going to be on the test. That is, it's $85. And I did the check mark, squiggly mark, X technique. And so what I mean by that is when I would go through some of the questions and I looked at it and I said, oh yeah, I totally know how to do this. Well, that would get a check. If I looked at a question and I thought, I'm not so sure how I do this, but then when I looked at the answer key, I went, oh yeah, that's how you do it. Well, that got a squiggly. And then if I looked at a question and I thought to myself, one, I don't understand what they're asking, or when I see the answer key, I don't think I could do this in a tight time frame on a test, that got an X. So I'd go through the entire book, then I went back to redo all the squigglies, and hopefully a lot of the squigglies turned into checks because I told myself, oh yeah, now that I've seen the answer key, I kind of know what they're asking here. Tried to get a whole bunch of checks, and yes, I hope all the X's went away, but I had about 30 out of 120 that were X's in this book, and I still passed. So don't feel like you have to fully understand every single question in here, but the more you understand, the better, which kind of leads me to the next point of what is a passing grade? I don't know. They don't tell you. I think I got around 75% on the test. Maybe I got more, maybe I got less. I've heard people say that they think they got around 70 and they passed, and their friend thinks, well, I think I got around 70 and they failed. So maybe around 70% is a passing grade. What I did when I was doing the test, I would write down question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, all the way through 55. And when I thought, yes, totally nailed that, I would give myself a check. When I thought, maybe, I'd give it a squiggle. And then if I was like, you need to come back to this, that's where I got kind of like either a circle or an X. And I kept going through iterations when I was writing the exam. Final tip here, tip number 8, you really need to eat and sleep and dream about the following things: trigonometry, horizontal, vertical curves, filling in a field notebook, a field survey book, the various different blanks, back site, foresight, the sum of the back sites minus the sum of the foresights, that sort of stuff. Understanding construction math and staking. That is the bulk of the exam right there. Always the standard, skip the hard, long questions and come back to them. That's a super important thing. But I think, if you've made it this far in your career, you probably understand that. And, beyond that, I think if you go through these books, just these books, you don't have to do a whole bunch of other books. And if you go through these exam questions, you should, in theory, pass it. And if you don't pass it, it's not too much to retake it. And, I sit on my first slide there. Follow me on LinkedIn, send me a message on grantwaldy.com. I'd love to hear if you have any different tips or how things went for you. And just overall, good luck.